Can I just say something about Andrea?
Guys, welcome back. We are picking back up with the Jim Martin trial, and we've reached a pretty important juncture in this case because, as we know from the defense, they intend to put Christy Martin's credibility at issue. That is front and center to their defense strategy, as they told us in opening. In fact, we don't even really know much else about what their defense is, other than that, according to the defense, Christy's account is sus. Now, we've seen her injuries. Okay, we've seen what happened to her. We've seen what the behavior was in the days and hours leading up to Christy being injured like this. But but according to the defense, her story about quitting cocaine, just cold turkey like that is implausible. Therefore, I guess Christy is not believable. I don't know. Maybe we're gonna finally start to get a little better perspective on exactly what the defense is here, and what we're supposed to believe if we're not supposed to believe Christy's version of the story that she's about to tell. So, because credibility is going to be a central issue in the case, the jury's been told that, and I think we can anticipate they're going to be watching Christy pretty closely, and they're going to have that in mind. They're going to be evaluating, how does this person come off? If we have only two sides of the story, or maybe even just one, maybe we only get her side of the story. Does she come across as being reliable? Does she come across as being sincere? Does she contradict herself? Does she seem guarded, suspicious, hostile? Or does she seem open? Does she seem authentic? These are just all the different kinds of things that the jury is going to be trying to analyze and trying to get a feel for as they watch her tell her story. So with that, guys, knowing the importance of credibility to this case, let's go ahead and turn to the next part, and let's see if we believe Christy.
I have one legal matter I'd like to address before.
Yes, sir.
I'd like the court's ruling as to whether or not, well, let me begin with, we attempted in limine to preclude mention of the cocaine usage. The court's heard that motion. There has been testimony brought forth thus far about the victim's alleged drug usage.
What witnesses you call, sir?
Oh, I agree, Judge. I'm not disputing that. What I'm disputing is the defense in their opening statement relied upon this drug use as being connected with the victim's character. What we would seek to want to introduce and believe that the door has been open to is, I suspect that, I know that the victim would testify if asked how she obtained the cocaine. She would testify that the defendant was the one who basically was her drug supplier. If this is being introduced...
Let me interrupt you for a moment. Do you have the witness in the courtroom?
I do.
Have the witness come forward, please.
Come on up, Chris.
May I come forward, stand in front of the podium, right here? Raise your right hand, face the court clerk, and be sworn.
I solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you shall give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Give me your name and then spell your first and last name, please.
Christine Renee Salters. Christine Salters. SALTERS.
What's your middle name since you used it?
I'm sorry, Renee. RENEA.
NEA?
Yeah.
So I want to pause here because I know in the grand scheme of things, a name, what's in a name? It may not seem like the most important reason to stay in an abusive relationship, but there's a lot tied up in that, isn't there? She's using her maiden name here, Christine Salters. Christy Martin is who she was for almost 20 years. It's how she spent the majority of her professional career as a boxer. And there's a couple things going on with that. I mean, I think that anybody in this situation has some self-identity wrapped up in their name. And it's not that, leaving the name itself is difficult. It's annoying. Okay. You got to go to the social security office and change it. You got to, change your socials and things like that. But these are kind of mild inconveniences. I think it's much more that there is a sense of yourself as part of this relationship that can be caught up in that name. And that's part of just what creates friction to deciding to put an end to the abuse. It just, seems easier to stay. And, as long as you have hope, you keep hoping maybe things will get better. Then you don't have to, take that definitive step of really changing who you are. But then you have a whole different level with somebody like Christy, who's famous. She's still at this time, she's not at the peak of her career or anything like that, but she's still boxing, and she still works in the boxing field. I mean, she does to this day. She's a promoter. And she's always been known as Christy Martin. That's who she is. So that's going to be a big piece for her, because that's how the whole world knows her. And people paid millions of dollars to come out and see Christy Martin fight, but you don't have any guarantee that they're going to show up for Christy Salters, that they're even going to know who that is. And again, it just seems like a small thing, but in this particular situation, I can see how she would feel so trapped by that, and so kind of committed to that path because of where it took her with her boxing career. So she does, just for the record, she continues to use the name Christy Martin professionally. Her boxing promotion company goes by Christy Martin. But I think it's clear from this testimony that just how she introduces herself, she's ready to separate herself from that part of her life, that identity that she had. She doesn't want to be Christy Martin anymore. She's done with that.
Last name?
Salters, S-A-L-T-E-R-S.
In simple English, the rule of sequestration has been invoked. It means that you cannot talk to anyone about this case other than the lawyers on the case. The lawyers are the four lawyers behind you: Attorney Barra, Attorney Vesio, Attorney Hancock, and Attorney Warren. When you talk to them, make sure it's outside the presence of the other witnesses. You cannot discuss your testimony before you come in the courtroom or after you leave the courtroom until the trial is over. If you violate those rules, you may be held in contempt, which means you may be fined or jailed or both. Do you understand that?
Yes, sir.
Do you have any questions?
Yes, sir.
All right. If you'll wait outside the courtroom, please.
And Your Honor, just for one point of information, Ms. Allred has filed a notice of appearance on behalf of the victim, has been previously accepted by the court, pro hoc vice. I just wanted to make the court aware of that, as it would be my belief that the rule of sequestration would not preclude the victim from speaking with her counsel either.
Let's do one thing at a time.
Yes, Judge.
Now, back to your motion now that the witness has been excluded.
Yes, Judge. Judge, the door has been opened by the defense to the issue of drug use. We sought to keep that out as we felt it was not relevant. It was argued pre-trial that the defense sought to introduce that evidence to establish state of mind for self-defense. We would seek to introduce the fact that the defendant knew about her drug use and actually supplied her drug use for two reasons. The first, to mitigate this reasonable belief of how the victim acted, because the defendant was the one who placed her in that position. The second would be, Your Honor, it's our theory of premeditation in the case, as you heard in the opening statements, that the defendant controlled, or we're going to argue to the jury that the evidence shows that the defendant controlled all aspects of her life, including giving her or providing her with illegal narcotics. We sought to keep this whole thing about drugs out. I'm not asking to re-argue the motion. I'm just asking the court to find that the door has been opened so that the victim may testify as to the provider of these drugs.
So let's pause right here, because we got quite a lot of information in that little segment. So we've already seen the smear happening. We've watched that unfold. So, but now we're told there was pretrial litigation over this, and so what we were supposed to be hearing about the cocaine use for was simply to relate to a state of mind for self-defense. So tells us right there, okay, this isn't just credibility, it's self-defense. Which means they're not denying what he did to her. Not denying what he did to her. They're just going to argue that it was justified, that he was the one that was in danger and he had to inflict that kind of damage on her to save himself. Credibility indeed. Can see why that would be pretty important. But so the state of mind to self-defense part of it, this is a little, I mean, this can mean a bunch of different things. It sounds like he's trying to say his own, Jim's state of mind as to the threat that she posed because of the fact that he knew that she used cocaine or was on cocaine or perceived that she was on cocaine or something like that. But prosecution's pointing out if we're going to include that as part of the context, then you have to include the whole context. And so the whole context is he's not only going to be very familiar with you know how she is when she's on cocaine. He's the reason why she is on cocaine. Like this isn't just like an innocent you know, person who's kind of passively has no agency in this situation and is just randomly attacked by his you know, surprisingly high on cocaine wife. And so state of mind, if you're going to state of mind, then you know what's relevant to your state of mind is probably going to come in. So you got to be real careful about how you open that door. Now, I kind of question that that's what they've used it for so far anyway, because that's really not what we heard from Sherry. It came up with Sherry, and the implication seemed to be, you know, we don't believe Christy was withdrawing from cocaine. Like it was implausible that she just quit cold turkey. And she didn't have withdrawal symptoms, even though she had the headache and the stomach ache and, you know, went home and took a nap, stuff like that. I don't know what cocaine withdrawal looks like. And apparently neither does Sherry. But that's what we heard about it so far. They haven't used it for state of mind. They've used it for credibility. And so that does potentially tend to open up some other doors for how to respond to that evidence as well. So they're fighting back against the smear, and I like to see that.
Can you be more precise in what you're seeking?
Yes, Judge. I am asking the court for permission to ask the victim, who gave you the cocaine over that 3-year period?
Thank you. Rebuttal, Mr. Hancock, or at least your...
Judge, I think, again, this goes to a character issue rather than an issue that is probative in this particular case. The reverse side where we're talking about in the self-defense is probative that she was on drugs. Where she got the drugs and the fact that my client may have been a supplier to her, or that would be her testimony, would simply be introduced for the purpose of assailing his character and making him out to be a bad person here, which is basically what these previous witnesses have been attempting to do also.
You got that, Darvo? Poor Jim. Poor Jim. He's such a victim. These previous witnesses that have talked about his control, his threats, his blackmail, up to the point of stalking them physically in California. Poor Jim, this is all a character thing. Isn't this the lady doth protest too much? Because it's literally what they've been doing, is trying to throw this cocaine out there like it's somehow you know, undermining to Christy. But you know, two can play that game, and so if you know, that's the way you want to go, that's the story that you want to tell, well, you know, the whole story might need to be told. So let's see what they do with it.
However, Judge, if it's going to be alleged and argued that the victim I apologize.
Have you finished, Mr. Hancock?
Yes, thank you, Judge.
Mr. Hancock, did you hear the witnesses testify?
Yes,
All right. Did they testify about cocaine use?
I believe Ms. Lusk did, yes, sir.
All right. And as you've mentioned in previous hearings, your theory of the case will be self-defense.
Yes.
And the hearing yesterday, it was discussed the effects of the cocaine use on her perception, psyche, and anxiety.
Correct.
Now, rebuttal, sir?
Yes, Judge. Two reasons we think that this should be allowed. The first is that even this morning in opening statements, the defense talked about this usage, not in regards to her perception, but to determine her veracity and character. Second, now that it's out that the victim has been using cocaine, we think it's not only appropriate that the jury know the context of that usage, and I'm willing to proffer that testimony if either the defense or the court would like. I expect that testimony from our conversations would be that Ms. Martin would ask for or would be given cocaine when she was training or in other situations to where she was engaged with the defendant. Because of that, I think it is only fair that the jury have the context of the usage, why it was used, when it was used, and who else was involved. Because otherwise, the jury is just left to speculate as to whether or not there were other parties involved, or the victim in this case was just off on her own using cocaine. And because of that, we think that if you open the door, then we should be able to limit it, but be able to ask that one question. And that's all we're seeking to ask.
These cases cannot be tried in a vacuum. You cannot piecemeal the case for the things you want and eliminate the things that you don't, even when they are entangled so that they cannot be separated. Directing your lawyer's attention to a deposition taken on the date of December 1st, 2011. All of the lawyers, including Ms. Allred, the deposition was held in Orlando, Florida. Attending Ryan Vescio, Deborah Barra, Mr. Hancock, and Gloria Allred. Direct your attention to page 9 of the deposition, beginning at page 9, line 10. And did you become addicted to cocaine? Answer, yes, sir. Did it affect the relationship you have with Jim at all? Answer, I don't know exactly what you mean by affect. Question, did it change the relationship you had with him in any way? Answer, Jim became my supplier. And was that the only way you were able to obtain cocaine was through Jim? Answer, through Jim. I mean, that's the only way I needed it, to try to get it, because he made it readily available. Question, okay, and what occurred? About how long ago? Answer, for 3 years prior to that. Motion's granted.
I love this judge. I love this judge. Even just his expression, like the way he's handled this whole motion, I really like it. So first off, prosecuting attorney who is asking me to do something, please be precise about it, exactly what it is that you want to do. What exactly am I ruling on? I don't want some ambiguous, nebulous, you can go into this area that you might take as an opportunity to do something prejudicial. So be very specific. And the attorney responded to that. He wants to ask the one question about where did she get her cocaine from? Because he wants the jury to understand she got the cocaine from Jim. Number 2, how prepared is this guy? How prepared is he? He's got the deposition right there. He knows the page. He knows the line. He's able to just like find it and refer to it like that. This deposition was probably filed with some type of pretrial motion. The motion that they talked about before, I would imagine the motion in limine about whether it's going to come in or whether it's going to be excluded. So he's had it, and he read it, and he remembered it, and he referred to it, can get right to it. A judge who knows the case, you're not going to pull the wool over his eyes. So I love seeing that he is familiar with what's going on and what's already been presented, what the context is. And lastly, he's just pretty no nonsense, isn't he? He's not here for the gamesmanship. You don't get to take this knot, this big tangled knot of behavior, and try to just like peel out one end of one thread and show it to the jury. If you want to go down this road, you're going to have to toss him the whole knot. And you can try to unravel it for him, but they're going to ultimately be the ones that see where it goes. So very easy to understand, very clear, very direct, very targeted, very prepared. Also kind of a badass, like a little intimidating, right? I don't necessarily want to be on the wrong side of this judge's thought process. If I'm trying to obfuscate, I'm trying to be unclear, I'm trying to wriggle like a worm on a hook, I don't think you're going to be very comfortable in this judge, in front of this judge, because he's quite good, isn't he, at just nailing it down, real specific. What are we talking about? What matters here? I like this judge a lot.
Does that mean that the court's allowing that line of questioning?
Isn't that what you requested?
I did. I just wanted to make sure that I was clear. Thank
right.
you, Judge. And at that point, the state has no other items and would be ready for...
Have the witness come in and take the witness chair, please. Excuse me. If any of you have cell phones or computers that make noise, cut them off. The exceptions are the press have requested dispensation, which has been granted.
Jim's just kind of there doodling.
All right, bring the jury, please.
So I want to pause real quick because we're getting our first look at Christy. And my take on Christy, you guys can see what you think, of course. But I find her very expressive, not in a big way, not in a dramatic, histrionic kind of way. It's very understated, but you do see a lot, particularly through her eyes and just the way that she kind of carries her energy. We saw her take this breath. I mean, how like sitting in the corner between rounds is that? It's just a classic calm yourself, deep breath in, deep breath out, slow your heart rate down, get things back under control. I think she's nervous here. This is not her arena. She's not a verbal sparer, an intellectual combatant. She uses her hands, man. She throws those hands. So I imagine this is a pretty intimidating type of situation for her to be in, and a little bit unexpected. But the thing about boxing, I don't think I really care how many times you've gotten in the ring or who you've gotten in the ring against. Every single time you get in, there's a little bit of fear, at least a little bit of fear, because things are unpredictable, and you just don't know. And you can misjudge things and get seriously hurt in there. But part of what separates the people from, the people who keep getting in the ring from the people who don't is the ability to cope with that and just kind of put that in the background, not let it impair what you need to do, the business that you're there for. And so Christy has a lot of experience of fighting through fear and doing so quite competently. So we just notice it because, I see her expressing it. It doesn't seem like she's, trying to hide or trying to be something that she isn't. But I don't anticipate it's going to be a major roadblock for her in this process.
Jury's entering. All rise.
Please recognize the presence of the jury.
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you. Time is now 1:56. Members of the jury, thank you. During the lunch break, did any of you discuss the case or form any opinion about the outcome of the case?
No.
Did any of you do any independent research, either from print, radio, television, electronic, iPads, internet, or anything else?
No.
Did anyone say anything to you or in your presence about this case?
No.
Thank you. Sir, call your next witness.
At this time, the state of Florida calls Christy Martin.
Ma'am, what is your name?
Christine Martin.
All right, you can sit back. Just talk up. You don't have to lean forward. Just talk to someone on the back row.
Okay.
Project your voice. And spell your first and last name, please.
Christine, Christine, Salters, Salters, Martin, Martin.
All right, sir, you may inquire.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Excuse me. This witness was sworn outside of your presence. You may inquire.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
How are you?
I'm okay. How are you?
One thing I noticed real quick too is how attentive she is to the judge. You better pay attention to the ref in the ring. The ref will be yelling things at you, giving you warnings, telling you what to do, and you better listen because you might get penalized. You might get taken a point if you don't. So her, quick reaction, just like stop cold and instantly check to see what the judge wants. That to me looks like that's her ref instinct right there. She knows disengage, stop, pause, take my instructions, and now go back to the work at hand.
Well, obviously, you know why you're here today.
Yes, sir.
And what I'd like to do is I'd like to start with, do you know who James Martin is?
Yes, sir.
Who is James Martin?
James Martin sitting right there with the glasses on in the middle.
Your Honor, may the record reflect the identification.
Record will indicate.
Now, would you rather me call you Ms. Martin or Ms. Salters?
Miss Salters, please.
Okay. Ms. Salters, we're here about an incident, an attack that occurred on November 23rd, 2010 at your home, correct?
Yes, sir.
And your home's located at 1203 Fox Tree Trail,
Yes, sir.
and that's in unincorporated Orange County, Florida,
Yes, it is.
but it's within Orange County.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And we're going to talk about the attack in a few minutes, but I'd like to talk a little bit about your background first of all.
Okay.
The day of this attack, how old were you? I know I'm not supposed to ask that of women, but
I was 43.
okay. And where'd you grow up?
Itman, West Virginia.
And describe that city to us, or town.
Itman is a town. It has no stoplights. There's about 500 people. It's a coal mining town. Everyone there worked in the coal mines or in something that supported the coal mines. All the homes were owned by Itman Coal Company at one time. It's very small, no businesses, very rural area.
And how long did you live there for?
Until I was 18, I graduated from high school and then went to college.
Okay. Let's talk about the time that you were there. At some point growing up, did you meet somebody named Sherry Lusk?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Would you tell the jury how you met Sherry Lusk?
I met Sherry through basketball, actually. She was about 3 years older than I was, and she was kind of the star. Well, she was the star of the high school basketball team and high school sports. So that's how I met her, because I was like the next generation of the standout basketball, softball, so on, athlete.
I want to pause right here because something has happened here that I definitely noticed. So Christy is extremely focused, compliant, and coachable. When the prosecutor started asking the questions, her attention is directly on him. Now she breaks it for the judge because, she knows the judge is like the ref. But as soon as, the judges has cleared her to continue, she is focused on that prosecutor, what he wants from her, what he's asking, this conversation that they're having. And so she has not, taken her attention away from him. Like one exception, please identify Jim, that guy over there. But now he's told her, would you tell the jury? Would you tell the jury how that happened? And immediately she does the turn to the jury and she gives her answer to the jury. This is a very, very coachable person. She's not fighting back. She trusts this guy. She knows what his job is. She knows that he's the expert in here. This is his ring. He's comfortable in this whole scene. And so she's trusting him to give her the instructions that she needs and guide her through it, just like she would be looking at her coach in a boxing situation. So it tells me a lot about her from a personality standpoint, because sometimes people are not coachable. They think they know everything. They don't want to hear it. They don't want criticism. They don't want to, do things that they don't want to do. A lot of working out is very unpleasant. It's painful. It doesn't feel good. And so if you just do what you want, you tend to stagnate. You focus on what you're already good at, but that doesn't make you better. You got to focus on what you're not so good at if you're going to make some big improvements. And that's where coaching comes in as being so valuable a lot of the time, because they can spot, here's where your weaknesses are, here's what we need to work on, and I'm going to be motivating you. Even though, because I know you don't want to do it because it sucks and it's awkward and it hurts and, you're not good at it. It's embarrassing. But it's what you need to do to get you to the next level. So it tells me a lot about how Christy got to where she was in the world. She's extremely coachable. She's trusting, and she will take those instructions.
She came first and then you were a couple classes behind her?
Then I was 3 years behind her.
Okay. And did you become friends with Ms. Lusk while you were still in high school?
Yes, I did.
At any point while you were in high school, did you have a physical or an intimate relationship with her?
Yes, I did.
Did you and Ms. Lusk lose contact around that time of high school and graduating?
We lost contact when she went on to college, and then we stayed in contact for a couple years. But then probably about the time that I graduated from high school, which would have been 1986, we really lost contact.
What do you do for a living?
I'm a professional boxer.
Okay, let's talk about how that became your profession. How'd you get involved in boxing?
I got involved in boxing. I did the Tough Man contest, which was a big deal in Southern West Virginia.
Well, tell us what that is.
The Tough Man contest is, of course, I was boxing against other women, but it's 3 1-minute rounds. You wear headgear and you use big 16-ounce gloves. And again, we're talking back in the late 80s, and it was a big deal. Probably sold out. It sold out the arena, which held maybe 4,000, 5,000 people.
Why'd you get involved in boxing?
At this point, I'm in college, and it was just a one-on-one sport, and I was intrigued by it. My dad was a huge boxing fan, and it was just something that I wanted to try, to say that I had done it once.
Look at her energy when she talks about boxing, because this is something that she loves. She lights up. You can tell she's happy. She smiles. She's got an uplifted kind of vibe about her. I see it right away. Pay attention to that, because just might give us a little bit of insight when there's a contrast.
Had you been involved in sports your whole life at that point?
My whole life, I've been playing some kind of sports.
Well, how did you take the next step from these local contests into the bigger stage?
I actually won the Tough Man contest a couple years in a row. And then as I graduated from college, Concord College, it's a small school in Southern West Virginia, I got a call from a local promoter in Bristol, Tennessee, that asked me would I be willing to come down to fight his girl. I didn't understand the way boxing world works, so I didn't know that I was going to lose no matter what happened. But I thought, you know what, I'm going to do this once. Win, lose, or draw, I'll be able to tell my kids or my grandkids that once upon a time I put the gloves on and tried to be a professional fighter.
And when was that?
That was, I think it was 1989.
Okay. So from there, after the fight that you were set up to lose, did that end your boxing career?
It was a draw. The fight was a draw. And that night I thought it ended my boxing career, but then I started thinking a little more about it, and I didn't win and I didn't lose. So therefore I better try this one more time. And I fought the same girl again the next month with the same promoter, and I actually knocked her out.
Okay, I love this story. I love it. Christy's entree into professional boxing. If the sport itself is super honest, right, nowhere to hide, truth comes out. The business is just rotten to the core, absolutely corrupt, just on a level, I think beyond most kind of sports scandals that come up in the news and history and stuff like that. What she is describing is the meat grinder. The way that you get into boxing, you are either one of the lucky chosen few who gets spotted by a promoter early, and they decide they see something in you. They think they can make money off of you. They think you'll win. They think that you put on a good show, you'll sell tickets. And so they set up fights for you. And the goal for that matchmaking is find people that you can beat. And the whole goal is to build up your young fighter so that they can have a nice big resume, bunch of wins. Nobody needs to know that these wins were against people who had maybe never fought before. So Christy didn't come into boxing on that kind of privileged side. She came in as the tomato can. She was supposed to be dented up and leak, and the fact that didn't happen just says so much to me about how extraordinary she was as a talent. Even her very first fight that went to the judge, it was a draw. Now, this tells me, I didn't see this fight. I doubt it's out there. But this tells me she probably handed that girl's ass to her. And the reason why I say is because the judges know where their bread is buttered. They know what decision they're supposed to make. You go with the promoter. The promoter is putting on the event. The promoter is paying your fee. You want more judging fees. You make the decision that's going to make the promoter happy. But you got to have a little shred of credibility with the audience too. So for them to settle on, well, I guess we can make it a draw, tells me Christy probably dominated that fight. And so then what happens? She takes it out of the judge's hands the next time. And that's what you got to do. That's like the only way around this corrupt system is just don't let the judges decide it. You get that knockout, you get that TKO, whatever. Then you don't have to worry about what's on the scorecards. And it's a lot harder than it sounds like. Knocking out another human being. It is nowhere near as easy as you might think it is. But Christy had a talent, very rare talent. And these are like natural skills. She was not a trained technical boxer at this point in time. She just she was scrappy and knew how to get at it. So I love her story because it shows what a unicorn she is. She was never supposed to rise to the levels that she did. She was supposed to get in the ring, get knocked around, be just a number on this other girl's resume. And she's like, nope, I don't think it's going to be like that. I love it.
How did you, where did things go from there?
I think I had 7 fights for that local promoter in Bristol, Tennessee. And I'd never been in a boxing gym, was still in college at this time. So I was playing basketball and that was it. I was just going to the local fights and some way, somehow able to win some. And I think I lost 1.
When did you meet the defendant?
I met him in December of 1990.
Look how her energy changes like that when it's time to talk about Jim. Her eyes get heavy, her head gets low. This is a weight. This is a weight on her. Jim has been a weight that she has carried for a long time. And you can just see it. She's not trying to like convey this. She probably doesn't even know she's doing it. But can you see it? Because I sure can. The weight, look at like she's literally like she's carrying it on her shoulders. And her just the sag, the exhaustion that she's had for carrying it all these years.
Where did you meet him?
At a boxing gym in Bristol, Tennessee.
Tell us about that meeting.
The first meeting that I had with him, I came away and I told my mother, this man is a male chauvinist pig. He doesn't want a woman in his boxing gym, and he doesn't want to waste his time training me. My mom kind of talked me into staying and giving it a second look, and I did so.
And
how sad is this? Right? This was a turning point. This was one of those periods in the story where there was a fork in the road and it could have gone a very different way. And I have to imagine this is a situation that both Christy and her mother have looked back on and really struggled with how this happened and why this happened, because she knew from the very first time she met Jim Martin, he didn't respect her. He didn't care about her. He wasn't going to look out for her. He didn't want her. So she knew that from the very beginning. And then you have this other layer of it was her mom that encouraged her to go back. Now, Christy had some conflict with her family. They kind of alluded to it, some just the fact that it existed. When Sherry was on the stand talking about, the family in the hospital and so forth. But Christy did have some conflict with her family. She's going to tell us about it. Largely having to do with her sexuality. This is the 80s in rural West Virginia. It's just not really the thing to be. But I look at this decision by her mom, and I have a very strong reaction to it, because I want to give her the benefit of the doubt. I want to give her the benefit of the doubt that she saw this was a dream her daughter has, and that she wanted to support her daughter in pursuing her dream. And she just thought, maybe this was the best way to go. Maybe this was, just the kind of attitude that Christy was going to have to learn to deal with in this industry. It's kind of male dominated. And that was going to be a struggle. It couldn't be disqualifying if this was the world that she wanted to go into. So I really want to give her the benefit of the doubt. But then there's this other part of me that just thinks, what a safeguarding failure. I mean, I know Christy's an adult. This isn't like she sent her, preteen daughter in there or anything like that. But still, even your adult child, why would you want them to be around somebody who despises them, has contempt for them? I can't imagine. Wouldn't you want to find somebody who would support your daughter and lift her up, believe in her, be a positive type of influence? So I don't know what to make about this. I have this strong reaction to God, like what kind of mother? I imagine she maybe thinks that to herself sometimes. I don't want to judge her too hard, but it's hard hearing this point in the story where it could have been so different. The signs were there. The signs were there. You knew this was not a good situation. You knew this wasn't a good scene. And they put their instincts aside and didn't follow that classic advice of believe who somebody is when they show you, when they tell you.
And did you eventually establish a relationship with the defendant?
I did.
Well, tell us how that developed from that first meeting that you just told us about.
Well, actually, the first meeting, I had that impression. And then as he's quoted in articles such as Sports Illustrated, that he had me set up to have my ribs broken because he didn't want a woman in his gym. So the first few weeks, it was very turbulent, I would say. A
little turbulent, getting your ribs broken. So let's pause now and talk about what this says about Jim as a coach, because this is abusive. This is abusive coaching. Boxing is a real tough guy sport. There's a lot of machismo. There's a lot of old school attitudes around it and stuff like that. And so I think maybe sometimes people don't really know what to expect when they walk into a boxing gym and what it's supposed to be like. But, in many ways, it's just like any other sport. Yeah, there's some contact. It can get a little rough. But this practice, guys, we're talking about practice. And nobody is supposed to be getting dropped, getting their bell rung, getting their ribs broken. Now, things happen. But that's part of what good coaching is supposed to mitigate. You don't put people in the ring when there's a big size mismatch and somebody could get hurt if they hit a little too hard. You don't put people in the ring with a real skill and experience mismatch. Choosing your matches for practice is, really kind of as important as choosing them for competition. Because you need people who are going to be able to test each other, but not hurt each other, not damage each other, put each other out of commission. Set her up to get her ribs broke. I mean, that's going to be debilitating. You know how bad a rib injury hurts? Oh my good Lord. It's like the worst. It's they take forever to heal. You have like no blood flow into your cartilage and your ribs. You can't breathe. Every time you breathe, God forbid you get a cold and you cough or you sneeze. Oh my Lord, it's agony. You can't sleep. You can't sleep. You can't get comfortable. You can't move. Rib injuries are they're terrible. They're some of the most painful things to ever experience. So, for Jim to put her through that, just right from the outset, to me, it tells me everything about who he is and what he thought of her. She had no value, not only no value, but no autonomy. Not even not even her health. He thinks he thinks that's not of any value, and he prefers to run her out. Then he's gonna use that. He's gonna intrude on that. So it's so overt and explicit, really, from the very early days. And it's almost this parallel for the pattern that you see in the domestic violence relationship. I mean, it's different. The domestic violence usually kind of takes a while to build up. There's a stage to it. It doesn't just start off with, people being physically violent. It usually escalates to that. But boxing is a violent sport. But you see that there's kind of a hope that things will get better, right? Maybe a sense that this is normal. This is the best I can expect. Maybe it's my fault for letting my ribs get broken because I'm not good enough. I got to work harder. You can just kind of start to see some of these early patterns being formed right there in the boxing gym.
Be trained in the gym with them, but by this time I'm kind of hooked on boxing.
Well, describe being a female in the early 90s and being hooked on this sport that not a lot of women were involved in. I mean, tell the jury, why have you gone back to boxing your entire adult life?
Because I love it. It's the most challenging thing that you could ever imagine. It's a great workout. If you just want to go for the workout, it's the best, in my opinion, workout. But the challenge that boxing presents, there's no one but you and that other person. Everybody else, when the bell rings, boom, they have to crawl out. So it's just you two.
And what's that challenge? Describe that challenge.
It's a challenge. It's challenging you. Did I do enough to prepare myself? Did I run enough miles? Did I spar hard enough? Did I hit the heavy bag hard enough? Did I do all the things? Did I sacrifice everything that I should in order to get this victory? Did I sacrifice more than my opponent?
And is this both a physical and a psychological, a mental challenge?
Absolutely. Boxing's probably, truthfully, 80 to 85% mental.
I'd say 90, 95.
You talked about going in the gym December of
Mostly
1990, meeting the defendant, being turbulent and rough. Why did you keep on going back in 1990 to the defendant?
Oh, I loved boxing. I loved the sport. And things started to change a little bit, and we became more friendly with each other. And kind of like I didn't know anybody there in that area because I came there straight from college. And he had moved down there from Indiana. And so we were kind of like two outcasts almost, and it seemed to pull us together a little bit. And we were just friends at first.
Let's talk about kind of how boxing works and how it's set up. And this is on the larger scale and arenas that you would reach, and we'll talk about in a moment. How is that transformation from somebody who's just fighting tough man or tough woman contests in a little arena in southern West Virginia to the bigger scale? I mean, what's all involved in order for you to be a world champion boxer?
It's unbelievable, the amount of hard work that's involved, number one, but then it takes like the right connections, knowing the right people. And I was fortunate that while I was training in Daytona Beach, Florida, a gentleman came to see me train, Jesse Robinson. Jesse also trained fighters for Don King. And Jesse actually thought I was the guy I was sparring, and I had my hair pulled up and kind of under my headgear. And he was like, wow, who is this person? And they're sparring. And so he just kept trying to get me to Don King. And it was just a timing thing. He waited until Mike Tyson was released from prison. And then I went and met with Don King and was able to sign with him.
When was that?
I signed with Don King in October of 1993.
And at that point in 1993, we'll talk about you and the defendant, your personal relationship in a few moments, but professionally. Was the defendant working with you at that time?
Yes, sir.
And what was the defendant doing as it relates to your boxing career?
He was my trainer, and he would try to get me bouts as well.
Okay, what does a trainer do?
Trainer is with you every day in the gym, basically shouting instructions and telling you how many rounds to work on the heavy bag, how many rounds to jump rope, giving you instructions on how to throw your punches, and that just delivering the right combinations at the right time.
And the other side of it, the promotion, the finding new fights, getting new fights. Tell a jury, how does that work within your world of boxing?
Basically, it was very difficult early on.
Why?
Because no other women were doing boxing, and no other women were like staying very busy as I needed to stay. So he would make some phone calls and try to also get me fights, but at the same time, Jesse was making some calls over in Daytona. I fought in Daytona a couple times, and he helped put those fights together as well.
And by 1993, is your full-time job being a professional boxer?
Yes, sir.
How did boxing, and this is really starting in the 90s, all the way up through the attack, what part did boxing play in your life?
Boxing has been my life since the day I started it. It's just been what I've been married to, boxing. I
Why?
love it. I love it. And at the same time, it was my escape. It was my escape from my personal life. So I just kept everything in the realm of my professional life.
Now,
Sublimation.
by the time professionally we reached 1993, you said you met with Don King and signed with him. How did that change your career at that point?
Well, when you're with Don King, especially at that point, now you're on top of the world. And then he put me on the undercards of Mike Tyson after I had maybe 5 or 6 fights with Don King and kind of had to prove myself. And then he gave me the opportunity. He put me out there kind of like sink or swim, Christy. And he put me on the big Tyson show when Mike Tyson fought Frank Bruno on pay-per-view. And I bled everywhere, and it was a big hit.
And you won.
And I won.
Okay.
Big smile there. That was a Deirdre Gogarty fight. It was a great fight. It's on YouTube. Check it out. Yeah, it was Christy. Christy was known for putting on a great show. Very aggressive fighter. Come forward. Not a brawler. You know, she did have technical skill, but very, very aggressive and hit like a truck. And so really showcased those skills on a lot of these big cards. She was a great match for the Mike Tyson cards and that type of energy, because of course Mike Tyson, you know, just ferocious. He was ferocious, scariest man alive. You know, more probably first round knockouts than certainly anybody else in that era, but you know, maybe anybody ever. So you were expecting a lot of aggression on Mike Tyson card, and she fit the bill just phenomenally.
And I got on the cover of Sports Illustrated.
And when was that?
That was in 1996.
What was that feeling like?
Awesome.
Where did your career go from there?
Basically, the sky was the limit. Don King was, still my promoter, and he was just putting me on every Tyson card for like the next. Mike Tyson would fight every 3 or 4 months, and so I would be on every undercard.
How long did that go on for?
I think it was 2 years, and I was on the card when Mike Tyson decided to bite Evander Holyfield's ear, and that was kind of the end of Mike Tyson at that time.
Yes, it kind of was.
Well, let's talk about at this point in your life. You were married to the defendant?
Yes, sir.
And what was it like to be the pioneer of women's boxing out in front of the public in the spotlight. I mean, how was that? I mean, how did you describe that to us?
It's very difficult because, as I said, I came from a place where there's like 500 people. I mean, almost about as many people are in this courtroom with us. That's how many people are in Edmond, West Virginia. So now I'm sitting across the table from Don King. I'm fighting at the MGM Grand in Las Vegas on these huge pay-per-view events. It's really undescribable to me. It still is hard for me to believe that I came from this little place to make it, to get to do the big fights that I did and the media and the things that I've been able to accomplish.
Now, were you receiving advice or direction or being told how to display yourself during this time period in your career by the defendant?
Yes, sir.
Let's talk about that. What role was the defendant playing in your professional career at this point?
In my professional career, every time that I went before the media, whether it be a press conference or if I did like the Jay Leno show or just any big outlet, it was always, he was telling me what to say, how to say it, how to make sure that he's very prejudiced toward homosexuals as well as different races, different, if you're fat, he doesn't like that, So he wanted me to display and put out there all this prejudice that he had. And if I didn't, then I had to argue with him when the interview would be over as to why I didn't say those things. So after a while, I just kind of...
Your Honor, it's non-responsive. It's also narrative and also not related to the case.
Sustain. Question, answer.
Yes.
We'll pause right here, but what she's described is now getting into the psychological control, isn't it? The mind control. You're not allowed to have your own thoughts. These are the thoughts you're allowed to have. And here's how you're going to express them. And he's going to, pressure her, punish her if she doesn't, not allow her to have any kind of independent moral agency, personal agency, intellectual agency. She has to adopt his perspective, his persona, be a little mini me. And there's something that speaks to a massive insecurity about that, isn't there? Because it's like he can't handle if she had a different opinion. Like is it because his own self-image is so frail? That's like a challenge to you. You can't take that. Somebody having a disagreement with you about, like, I don't know, maybe gay people are fine, not really that big of a deal. But also kind of needing to hide behind her. She's the one that's out in front of the camera. She's the one that's getting the publicity. She's the one that they're interested in. And so, if she's the one that's painted in this image, how do people react to that? It's like a no-lose situation for him. It's either going to validate him and who he is, or, people dislike Christy for it, and then he can berate her with that, So just very, very insidious, the psychological control that's starting to show up as soon as the media needs to be managed.
At this point, were you being told how to act and what to say by the defendant?
Yes, sir.
Why did you listen, or did you listen to what he said in those specific situations on how to act and what to say?
After a while, yes, sir.
Why? Why would you listen to somebody who wanted you to say the things that you testified about?
Because I just got tired of arguing.
And let me take a step back. When did the two of you get married?
March of 92.
Why? Why did you marry the defendant?
I married the defendant because he told me that my dad had said for him to throw my stuff out on the street, that if I was out with somebody, another woman, then they didn't want me, and they didn't care what happened to me. So I married him.
And now we have the triangulation, right? Jim is co-opting her family, speaking for her family, bringing them over to his side to separate her away from them. Your family is with me, and you don't get to be like this. You have to be how I say you're going to be. I mean, it's a classic manipulation technique for sure. But I think there's more to it here, because I just think about how damaging that is from a self-image standpoint. This just feeling unloved by your family, feeling unwanted. It's just got to be a huge blow to her self-esteem. And I think, it speaks a lot to that, to how much she was willing to endure to try to present herself, try to be the person they wanted her to be for all of these years, living the lie, not for herself, but for the sake of these other people that she cared about. Kind of always chasing that approval, that affection, that love. I think a lot of that just comes from a place of, low self-worth, low value. And, yeah.
And since this incident occurred, after the attack, are you now divorced?
Yes, sir.
How long were you married for?
I think almost 19 years.
You talked a moment ago about arguments, about the defendant wanting you to appear and say and talk a certain way and you not wanting to do that. Did you resist that at first?
At first, I did resist it, and I would just say what I felt in the interviews, but then I would have to argue with him when I would get home and the interview would be over.
And what would the defendant tell you when you refused to follow his demands and direction?
Why didn't I say what he told me to say? And if I'm not saying what he told me to say, then I must be gay, or I must not have the same resentment toward Mexicans or blacks or whomever he was putting down that day.
Well, at this point, we're talking about the late 90s. You were talking about all the things that you were involved in. Why would you stay with the defendant if there was this turmoil?
I stay with him because of boxing, and I didn't want him to ruin my boxing career. I had worked very hard. That's one reason. The other reason, and probably the most profound reason, is because I wanted to protect my family, and I didn't want my family to have to live through everything they had to live through 1 year and 5 months ago. The whole, that I'm gay, that I'm with Sherry, just all the bashing. I didn't want my family to have to live through that. I wanted to protect them.
And Christy safeguarded her family better than they safeguarded her, didn't she? She cared more about their well-being than they cared about hers. I hate to say it, but that's how I see it. That's how I see it. I very much, hope their relationship is better now than it was then. But that dynamic is terrifying, isn't it? Big motivation to stay. The fear of hurting your family, and the way he was able to leverage that so destructive and such a just particularly disgusting, part of this whole story.
Why? So at this point, and we're talking as we work up towards the incident, as early as the late 90s, why was your career more important to you than your personal life and your personal feelings?
Absolutely.
And did your career remain more important to you than your personal life all the way up until a couple weeks before the attack?
My career was most important to me for the longest time. Actually, probably a little bit more than just a couple weeks before the attack did I realize that the career has done all it's going to do, and it's time to move forward and to make me happy.
And when was that time period?
I would say that time period was within a couple months before the attack.
Okay. After you were no longer on the Tyson cards, how long did your career continue at that level for, or was that kind of the plateau?
Well, my contract with Don King ended in 2001, but even after 2001, I had some big fights. I fought Layla Ali, I fought Mia St. John, and I was actually scheduled to fight Lucia Riker for $1 million, which is huge for women fighters.
And when was that?
That was in 2005.
How were, in your career, how much money did you earn?
Probably about $4 million.
And at the time of this incident, November of 2011, what was your financial situation at that time?
Broke. I had no money. I had all these cars, say about 7 cars. So I had actually started selling vehicles, jewelry. I had started selling possessions.
What was the status of your home the day that you were attacked?
It was in foreclosure.
Now, besides your career starting to go down and end, what happened in your life as we start getting into 2005, 2008, as we get closer to the attack? Did your personal life continue to go downward?
Yes, sir.
Is that when you became involved with cocaine?
I started with cocaine 3 years prior to the attack, which would have been about in 2007, 2008.
Why?
Because I was just so miserable in my day-to-day life that I felt like the use of cocaine was the only way I could make it. And I stayed high from the moment that I would wake up. I would stay up for 3 or 4 days. And then when I would sleep, but as soon as I would wake up, the cocaine was always readily available to me.
And who made that cocaine readily available to you for those 3 years leading up to the time around the attack?
Jim was always the supplier.
Now let's go forward in time to, you told us that a couple months before the attack, you had made the decision to attack. Did your personal life continue to go downward?
Yes, sir.
Is that when you became involved with cocaine?
I started with cocaine 3 years prior to the attack, which would have been about in 2007, 2008.
Why?
Because I was just so miserable in my day-to-day life that I felt like the use of cocaine was the only way I could make it. And I stayed high from the moment that I would wake up. I would stay up for 3 or 4 days. And then when I would sleep, but as soon as I would wake up, the cocaine was always readily available to me.
And who made that cocaine readily available to you for those 3 years leading up to the time around the attack?
Jim was always the supplier.
So we got a couple things going on with this too, right? Obvious self-medication here. Pretty classic kind of thing to happen. We have the double crossing, Jim's gonna provide her with the cocaine, but then he's also going to bludgeon her, for using it, as we're seeing here in this trial. He's going to punish her, use it as one more thing to kind of break her down and devalue her, why she's not worth anything because she's using cocaine. And then just the straight up dependency side of it. If you want to control somebody, getting them dependent on you to be able to, provide their supply. It's kind of one way to do it, right? One more way to kind of make the relationship sticky, discourage them from going anywhere. Because, things are going to get bad. A lot of levels to this, but it does make me wonder if this was kind of a, increasingly desperate measure by Jim. Does he feel like he's losing control, or just his control hasn't been adequate or something like that? He needs to continue to ratchet it up. Because the last piece of it, I guess, that I see is there is kind of this trauma bond element to it. He knows she's unhappy. He knows she's miserable. He's not clueless. He just doesn't really care, except to the extent that he can use that to his own advantage. And so there's like a trauma bond kind of element to what's going on with this drug use. You're miserable with me, and so we bond over me making your pain go away by providing you with this drug. Kind of wonder if this is just, this is one of the signs of things starting to get to the breaking point.
Now let's go forward in time to, you had told us that a couple months before the attack, you had made the decision that you were going to move on in your life. What decision or decisions did you make at that time?
I just gave up. I was like, I don't want this marriage anymore. I don't want this fake stuff anymore. And I said to Jim, you know what? Let me get clean. Let me get off this cocaine. We had to make one. We're broke. Let me make one more run at the boxing world. You train me one more time, and let's see what we can do. We can live under the same roof, but definitely live and lead separate lives.
Now, at this point, how did you earn money at this point?
I didn't. I mean, I commentated some for the internet, and there was just no money to be made for me, really. I fought a few times, but it was much smaller purses than I had made during the 90s.
And did you need another fight to try to get out of the financial hole then?
Absolutely.
So let's talk about, what was his response to you saying, I want to lead a separate life, I want to break?
I thought we were both on the same page, that, he knew that I was never in love with him. And I felt, that he never really loved me either, and that this was kind of a business relationship. But it's time now that, let's be for real.
Okay. So things moved forward up until the week before this incident?
Well, I didn't really get back to the gym every day, but I had gone to the gym a couple times, was still using cocaine some.
And when did you stop using cocaine?
November 17th or early morning November 18th of 2010.
And what was it about that day that made you stop?
I went to see Sherry that day, November 18th, and the misery was over. I was done, and I didn't need cocaine anymore.
Let's talk about Sherry how she was involved in your life after graduating, all the way up to the point to where you reconnect, okay? After you two split your separate ways, like you talked about earlier, how often would you talk to Sherry?
I hadn't talked to Sherry for years.
Look at that look. I had to pause this. Look at that look. Now we've been watching Jim stare her down this whole time. You know, this like fish-eyed, expressionless stare down that sure doesn't look very passive and fawning to me. This doesn't look like a scared man. This looks like you know, a man who is judging, you know. But how exaggerated does that get with this question? How long had you been talking to Sherry? And you get the eyes narrowing. Yeah. Yeah. How long have you been talking to Sherry? I just feel like it's all so obvious. You can just see it in how they relate to each other. That suspicion, that condemnation. How dare you talk to Sherry? You can just really see crystal clear who's controlling who in this dynamic, and that little narrow-eyed glare just really said it all for me.
I did see her, actually. Jim and I both saw her in Raleigh, North Carolina, and I think that was in 94, 95.
Let me ask you, before we talk about Raleigh, between the time period that you met Jim and the time that you saw Sherry in Raleigh at the fight, had you ever told the defendant about Sherry, who she was, the relationship with her?
Yes, sir.
And did you tell her that, or did you tell him, excuse me, that you and her were involved in a previous relationship?
Yes, sir.
Now, would Sherry's name come up in conversations between you and the defendant, even before seeing her at the fight in Raleigh?
Yes, sir.
Would you tell the jury about how Sherry's name would come up in conversations?
Yes, sir. One of Jim's sexual fantasies or fetishes, I don't know what you would refer to it as, would always be about me and other women. So he would always ask me about sexual relations with Sherry and what I did, what she did, and how it was.
And at that point, when this started to come up, to your knowledge, had Sherry ever met the defendant?
No, sir.
Had ever talked to the defendant?
No, sir.
So you see her. Now, was that a planned meeting in Raleigh or unexpected?
It was somewhat unexpected. I mean, I knew she lived in Raleigh. I had gone there. I was supposed to fight. She read in the newspaper that I was going to fight, so she just, she reached out for me, and she came by and watched me work out. I don't know if she came. I think she came to the fight, but the girl actually left, and I didn't end up fighting. So
after Raleigh, 94, 96 time period, when was the, would you talk regularly to Sherry after that?
I didn't.
When was the next time that you had any contact with Sherry?
Probably around March of 2010.
And how did that come up?
Actually, I got a Facebook message from her out of the blue.
And after you were contacted on Facebook, what was going through your mind at that time?
I was somewhat shocked. I had looked for her on Facebook before. She wasn't there. But I was somewhat shocked to get the message. And the early messages were just very general. How's your mom? How's your dad? How's your life?
And did you start to speak with Sherry after March of 2010?
I went kind of from Facebook messaging to text messaging, and then finally there was a time when I started to talk to her.
Okay. And when did you start talking to her? Roughly.
Just maybe like 3 or 4 months before the attack.
Okay. Well, let's go to the week before. You told us that you had stopped the drug use Thursday, March 18th, you said you had met Sherry. How did that meeting come about?
She told me that she was coming to St. Augustine. I think it was either a friend's birthday or wedding, something. There was some reason she was going to be in St. Augustine, and that if I was up for it, she would meet me.
And did you want to meet her?
I did.
Did you end up going to St. Augustine to meet her?
I did.
Before you left, did you tell the defendant that you were meeting Sherry?
I did.
Did you tell him where you were meeting Sherry?
Actually, I think I told him that I was going to meet her in Daytona because that was the initial plan. But I think that she didn't think I was really going to show up. So therefore, she said, well, if I was really going to come, just come on to St. Augustine.
What made you decide to go see Sherry?
I felt that my life was very close to the end, and that I wanted to do something before I died that made me feel good. It made me happy, and that's why I went to see her.
And what was this time period leading up to your decision to go see Sherry? What was your relationship like with the defendant at that point?
There was no relationship. It was, it was all about being high and being on cocaine. That was the only relationship that we had.
She was still under control. She was still under his control. It doesn't matter if she doesn't, do wifely things, because that doesn't matter to him. He's, it's like just another thing for him to kind of use against her. I gotta just like gross feelings from her describing, oh yeah, he wanted to know all about me and Sherry and stuff like that. I have this premonition of like just some real sadism there. He knew she was gay, the whole time. But if she's still living in the house, still staying there, still taking the cocaine, still dependent on him, she's still under control. So there's no threat yet. So even if they're, not exactly like the happy couple, it doesn't really matter. She hasn't threatened to like really become independent at this point.
So you go and see Sherry.
Yes, sir.
And now, did you stay that day or did you stay overnight?
I stayed that night in St. Augustine.
And what'd you do the next morning?
I think it was like mid-morning. I left St. Augustine and went back to Orlando or Apopka.
Why did you go back to Apopka?
I knew that I had given my word that I would commentate on Saturday for LDL TV, and I needed to be in Tampa on Saturday.
Now, LDL TV is a website for boxing?
It is a website for boxing.
Okay. Did you go home on Friday?
I did.
And did you see the defendant at your house?
I did.
And what happened, if anything?
Really, it was very, very uneventful. No arguments, no nothing. I remember I asked him, was he going to the show in Tampa? That I just let him know that I was going there to commentate, which was something that he didn't like for me to do. But I let him know that I'm on my way. Saturday morning, I'll be heading to Tampa.
Any other discussions about you and Sherry, the status of your relationship? Either way, either you to the defendant or the defendant to you that day?
No, not at all.
So Saturday, what happens on Saturday?
Saturday, I got up, drove to Tampa, and on my drive to Tampa, the defendant actually called me.
Okay, and tell us about that conversation.
He called me and said, he actually said that John Masiunas, who is part owner of LDL TV, had called and said that the promoter was supplying hotel rooms. So I said, great, I won't be coming back.
And so did you tell the defendant that you were not returning home Saturday night and staying in Tampa?
Exactly, yes.
Did you have other plans though?
When he said that the promoter was paying for a hotel room, yes.
And did you tell the defendant about those plans of
No.
Saturday night?
I just told him no, I would not be back home.
And what did you end up going to the fight and doing the commentary?
Yes, sir.
After your work at the fight on Saturday, what did you do?
After the fight, I drove back to Altamont Springs,
Why?
met Sherry, and stayed in a hotel there.
And how was it, your relationship with Sherry had kind of been building from March to November. Now you've seen her twice in 3 days. How'd that make you feel?
I was glad to see her. I felt happy. Everybody at the event that I worked, they kept asking me, "Wow, you seem awful happy today. What have you been doing?" So
And
I
what-
could tell a difference. They felt that I was happier.
Well, tell us, were you happier at that?
I was happier. I was by myself. I was not being told what to do. I was not being controlled. I was not being puppeted by the puppet master.
Puppeted by the puppet master. And look at that expression. Again, you just kind of see the weight and the exhaustion, how much that took out of her. I feel like this night was probably the turning point, because this is when she didn't tell him. She didn't tell him she was meeting up with Sherry. Previous night, she told him. Okay, maybe he doesn't like it, but you know, she's still in control. He can hold that over her head, you know, use it to punish her, guilt her, so forth. But now she's getting out of control. She's doing things on her own accord, making her own decisions. She's cutting him out, and that's where it becomes threatening to an abuser. He's losing his grip. She's not being puppeted by the puppet master. Puppet master isn't going to stand for that.
So did you stay Saturday night with Sherry?
I did.
What'd you do Sunday?
Sunday, later in the day, I went back to Apopka to my house.
Well, if you're feeling different after all of these years, as you've described, then why do you go back to your house again? And why do you leave this thing that's making you happy to go back to the place that you've described?
Well, one thing is Sherry had to go back to Charlotte to go back to work. So she was leaving, and I knew that Monday morning I had to be in the boxing gym. Now I really feel like I've got to make a strong push at this. I felt like I had life in me again.
What was this strong push?
I felt the life rebuilding, and that let me get back to the gym and let me train hard and see if I can't financially dig my way out of this hole that I've been put in.
So did you see the defendant on Sunday?
I did.
And what were the interactions like between the two of you then?
On Sunday night, we were in separate. I went back to Apopka to my house.
Well, if you're feeling different after all of these years, as you've described, then why do you go back to your house again? And why do you leave this thing that's making you happy to go back to the place that you've described?
Well, one thing is Sherry had to go back to Charlotte to go back to work. So she was leaving, and I knew that Monday morning I had to be in the boxing gym. Now I really feel like I've got to make a strong push at this. I felt like I had life in me again.
What was this strong push?
I felt the life rebuilding, and that let me get back to the gym and let me train hard and see if I can't financially dig my way out of this hole that I've been put in.
She's got hope for the first time, right? She sees a way out. She's got hope. She isn't just feeling lost and just having given up. She's got a reason now. There is happiness. She remembers that. And she can start to see it right over the horizon. And I bet that's going to be dangerous.
So did you see the defendant on Sunday?
I did.
And what were the interactions like between the two of you then?
On Sunday night, we were in separate bedrooms, of course, and but then he came in and he tried to tell me that he was having a heart attack, and he just wanted me to get in bed and just hold him and just, please, I'm having a heart attack. I said, if you're that sick and you think you're really having a heart attack, one of two things can happen. I could take you to the hospital, or we can call 911.
Starts with a pity play, right? To get his control back. Tries to guilt her. Tries to manipulate her sense of responsibility. She'd already stood by him. We heard about when he was in the hospital the first time, unconscious for, 14 days. So that's his first, but it's not working. She's not giving him what he wants. So what's going to have to happen? He's going to have to escalate.
No, I am not getting in bed with you. Those days are done.
And let's talk about the defendant's illnesses for a moment. Earlier in 2010, was the defendant hospitalized?
Yes.
What happened?
Actually, it was the end of the year before, 2009. He had open heart surgery. His blood pressure went really high, and I took him to the emergency room, and a young doctor saw him and therefore sent him on downtown, and they did the heart cath and saw that he had substantial blockage and he needed open heart surgery.
And the defendant became very, very ill as a result of that surgery and the complications afterwards?
He didn't wake up for 14 days.
Did you stay with him and by him during that time period?
I never left the hospital.
Why did you choose to stay with him when you've gone through everything that you've told us about? Why would you still choose to remain with him during that time period?
Because I feel like I am a good person, and I feel like there was no one there. He don't have any family. His kids are in Indiana. They don't have a lot of contact with them. I felt like I'm the only person that he has here to try to take care of him and try to help him through this.
So kind of just like so much of her motivation for what got her into this situation was trying to protect her family. Now she's trying to take care of Jim. She's trying to, provide Jim with the support that he seems to, it seems to like cultivate a helplessness that he can't do for himself. You got kids, for heaven's sakes. You can't even maintain a relationship with your kids. To have somebody to come and care about you and look out for you. But that would take away from his ability to put the full weight of that responsibility on Christy and make her carry the guilt if she were to fall short. So now we see the learned helplessness and kind of the role that played, that manipulation. Just layers on layers and layers of it going on here, aren't they?
And I could have just turned my back, but I'm not that kind of person.
So taking us back to Sunday night, did you end up staying in the same bed as him that night?
No, sir.
So Monday morning comes. And what happens Monday morning?
Monday morning, I ran. And for whatever reason, he decided he was going to follow me. And I kept telling him, please, I don't need you to follow me. I'm just going out for a run. I'm running the same pattern through all the housing developments that I always run. And I finished the run. I came home, I took a shower, and I told him Terry had decided that she was going to stay in Florida one more day or a couple more days. And I met her in Daytona Monday.
Did you tell the defendant that you were going to Daytona to meet Sherry before you left?
Yes, I did.
And how did he react to that?
He said, don't ever come back. I had these videotapes. I'm gonna call your parents. He made lots of threats, but I was just to the point where I didn't care. I mean, I really, even though I felt as life had been re-energized in me, I still knew that I was walking on that tightrope, that life and death was still close.
What were these threats?
He had videos of me with having sex with him. He would tell the boxing world that I'm with Sherry. It was just like one threat after another. I'm going to ruin you with the boxing world. I'm going to ruin you with your family. I'm going to tell the world that you're gay. I'm going to tell the world that you're a drug addict. He would just go on and on. And finally, I just said, do what you have to.
So yeah, he is definitely sensing he's lost control now, because now she's just overtly, after she rejected him, wouldn't give him what he wanted. Now she's just overtly telling him, she's going back to Sherry. She doesn't care what you think anymore. That's going to be very threatening. So now we ratchet it up. We got the threats. We got the blackmail. But, a Rubicon has been crossed here. She's not going back. She's done. She's had it. And so this is kind of the put up or shut up for Jim, isn't it? That's how he's going to see it. You're going to make her do what you want one way or the other, or are you just going to let her walk away? It's just distorted mindset he's going to have, where this to him is a challenge. Her being independent, having her own life, pursuing her own happiness. It's a challenge. He can't tolerate it.
Well, if boxing is your life and your career was everything to you, how could you just say, you know what, whatever happens, happens? How did you get to that point if this was your life?
Because as I said, I knew I was walking that real fine line between life and death. And I felt closer to death than I did life. And I just thought, go ahead and do what you have to do, because these last few days that I have to live, I'm going to do what I want to do, what makes me happy.
And was that going to see Sherry in Daytona on Monday?
Yes, it was.
So did you go to Daytona?
I did.
What car did you take to Daytona?
I took my yellow Corvette.
And did you meet up with Sherry?
I did.
Do you remember where you met up with her at?
I think it was Quality Inn or Comfort Inn, one of those. I think it was a Quality Inn.
Okay, so Quality Inn or
right on A1A, right on the beach.
And after you met up with Ms. Lusk that day, did you receive any sort of calls or text messages from the defendant's phone?
Actually, throughout the 3 days that I had been with her, he had continually sent me text pictures of me from sex videos that he had taken still photos from. So yes, I did receive text messages from him, and I think he had called, but I left my phone turned off, so I didn't talk to him.
Besides these video stills, and did you receive any of those after you met up with Sherry in Daytona the day before the attack?
I did.
Do you know if Sherry received the same photographs in your presence?
I don't think she received them on her phone, but I did show them to her, because I felt like if I basically if I lived or died, it was probably going to come out. So I went ahead and showed her.
And that Monday afternoon when you were in Daytona with Ms. Lusk, did the defendant make any statements to you about where he was?
He did call me and make it sound as though he had just seen me greet and meet Sherry as she pulled in. I had looked around for him and tried to see if he might be around. I didn't see him, so I don't know where he was. But he definitely had information. He knew she was on a motorcycle and not in her car that time.
Is that what he shared to you?
Yes,
And was in fact Sherry on a motorcycle in Daytona Beach that afternoon?
yes.
And prior to the defendant telling you that, had you ever told him how Sherry was getting there or where exactly she was going to be?
No, I didn't know.
Do you know of any other way that the defendant would know about specific information with you and Sherry that Monday afternoon?
Objection, Your Honor, speculation.
Sustained predicate, or either rephrase.
I'll rephrase. How did you feel? Actually, we're just going to move on to another topic. After this contact about specifics with your visit, what was going through your mind that day before, after he had told you these things?
After, when I left the house,
Yes.
I just, he told a lot of lies throughout the marriage, but for some reason, I was pretty certain that he was going to send the photos out at least, and if someone would release the DVD or DVDs, he would do that as well.
Besides these threats to out you, your personal relationship status, these videos, did the defendant make any physical threats to you?
Yeah, he hit me a few times. I never been knocked out except by Jim. The scar that I have right here,
Objection, Your
he
Honor.
hit me.
Just a moment, lawyers, sidebar.
Sidebar.
Sustain the objection.
Let me ask you, around the time of this incident, did the defendant say anything to you, either over the phone, in person, or through text messaging, that was a physical threat?
He said he was close enough he could reach out and touch me if he wanted.
And how did you take that?
I took it as he was close enough that if he wanted to, he could have killed me at that moment.
And that's probably what he wanted her to think, right? So they're not going to let her get into the history of the domestic violence, which is this kind of thing. It often goes both ways. My perspective with the self-defense being on the table, then you really have to allow the relationship dynamic as a whole to be on the table, because the perception of harm, of risk, is so critical to being able to evaluate what was in these people's minds, what drove their behavior, what was reasonable and what wasn't. And so it's kind of a different situation if, there's an attack and it's the first time anything like that has ever happened, versus there has been violence before. Just creates a little bit of different set of expectations when the violence recurs. So I don't know that I agree with this ruling, but it could very well just be that we don't have kind of the foundation yet to be able to go there, to be able to flesh that out more. But this is your 404B evidence, so to speak, right? This is prior bad acts. It's not what he's being charged for. He's not being charged for having hit her hard enough to knock her out, given her a scar, side of her mouth. No, he's not on trial for that stuff. And yeah, that's pretty prejudicial. Certainly doesn't make me think very highly of old Jim Martin over here. But until there is a, highly relevant reason to bring that in, the court is keeping it out. So we'll have to kind of wait and see if that changes. Maybe once we get into more of the self-defense angle a little bit more. Don't know, but we'll have to wait and see. For now, had to go back to, we're just talking about the immediate situation leading up to the attack, and what sort of threats or violence, physical danger did you feel you were in at that time? It seems to me like this background of violence would go to the reasonableness of her fear, but guess it's just the judge is being cautious and it doesn't necessarily agree with that. So,
Did you stay in Daytona Monday night?
Yes, I did.
Tuesday morning, the day of the attack. Tell us about what happened that morning.
That morning, I got up actually pretty early because I needed to get back to the gym by 4:30. Sherry and I went for breakfast, and at that point, I started getting really sick, like this. My head started hurting, my stomach started hurting, and I told her, I said, Sherry, this motherfucker's gonna kill me. He's gonna shoot me.
Why did you think that the morning that you were attacked?
It's just something that
she knew.
I felt, and I felt it so strong, and
She knew.
it was just like it was a given.
So
Was
what
she
did
wrong?
You and Sherry,
Only in his
did you and
ability
Sherry
to
come up with
carry it
some
out.
sort of safe plan, action plan?
She said, memorize my phone number. And I did. And how I was able to remember it, I don't know. But I was able to memorize her phone number. We worked on it, did little clues. And I was able to memorize her phone number. I gave her my good friend Donna Westridge. I gave her Donna's number and told her that if something happened to me, because Donna's in the boxing business, she'll know. She'll hear about it. So,
And did you make any agreement as to keep in constant contact with Sherry?
Yeah, we said we definitely, we're going to keep in touch. And, we didn't make a plan on, well, we'll see each other next weekend or the following weekend, but we knew we would see each other again.
So did you leave Daytona Beach?
I did.
Where did you go?
I went to Apopka.
And where in Apopka did you go?
As I was driving through Apopka, I passed by my house. And
Do you know about what time that was?
it was maybe like 4:30, 4 o'clock. I don't really remember.
And if you don't remember, you don't remember.
Yeah, it was in the late afternoon. And I passed by my house and saw Scott Selkirk.
Well, let's talk about Scott Selkirk for a moment. And I'm sorry to cut you off, but who is Scott Selkirk?
Scott Selkirk is a neighbor that lives like across the street and 2 houses down,
Up and down.
up and down Fox Street Trail.
Okay. How long had you known Scott?
Basically, Scott and his wife and family moved into their house at the same time that we moved into ours, so 1996.
And was there a friendship between you and Scott?
I thought so, yes, sir.
And what about the defendant and Scott?
They were like brothers.
And how did you know that, or why did you believe that Scott Selkirk was at your house when you passed it early on?
I saw him.
Physically, you saw his body?
I physically saw his body standing out in my driveway.
Well, then why didn't you stop?
I didn't stop because I felt already that Jim was going to kill me. And I felt at that time that Scotty was going to help him.
Why?
I can't give you a truthful answer other than that was just my gut. I just felt like Jim's going to kill me and Scott's going to help him get rid of me.
Where did you go then when you passed the house?
I went to La Di Da Hair Salon.
And who was there?
I saw 2 friends of mine, Debbie Abbott and Dina.
And why did you go and see Debbie and Dina?
I went to tell them goodbye. They didn't know. And I went to tell them the truth. I wanted somebody to know the truth as to where I had been, what I had been doing. And by that, I mean the cocaine. I mean, seeing Sherry. I wanted them to know the truth about everything. So somebody would be left behind to tell the truth.
Wanted to tell him goodbye. She knew. She knew. She knew the puppet master wasn't going to let her cut the strings, become a real boy, and walk away. I know she's not a boy, just, Pinocchio and all that. Well, I bet the defense is going to seize on these little inconsistencies, right? There have been a couple. Sherry told us about the plan to call every 15 minutes, the safety plan to check in and make sure that she was okay. Christy doesn't describe that, doesn't seem to remember that. So we're going to see the defense jump on this in cross-examination. Sherry made that up so that you guys could, elevate, make it sound more dangerous than it was. Kind of heard that preview with Sherry, right? You guys weren't really in danger. You were trying to build up this perception of the danger. Well, look at Christy. Look at Christy and what happened to her. Seems like that was a pretty solid prediction, doesn't it? If that's like what they have for the credibility challenge here, to try to establish self-defense, that, well, you guys exaggerated the threat. Well, but look what happened to Christy. That doesn't seem very exaggerated to me. Kind of seems like they maybe had a pretty spot on view of what they were walking into. And, it had to get to that point. It had to get to that point where she just didn't care anymore. Because, her life was so miserable. Didn't have value to her. And the only way, she already knew, the only way she was going to find value again was to make a fundamental change. And that was going to require this kind of showdown with Jim. And she knew he wasn't gonna take it. How could he? It would just undermine everything he believed. From day one, he's a male chauvinist pig. She's inferior. He's better than her. He will control her. And so if she breaks away from that, this undermines his whole self-image and his whole worldview. So he can't allow it. And she knew him real well, didn't she? She knew him very well after all that time. So, what do you think of Christy so far? What do you think of Christy? Think she's coming off as deceptive, evasive, scripted? Or does she seem, pretty genuine, pretty responsive to what she's asked? Jury is going to be watching. I don't know how well they can see Jim. I mean, I assume they can kind of see him, but he does have, another lawyer sitting on the other side. We can certainly see him peeking over at them from time to time too, checking out how are they reacting to this? What do they think of this? But I do wonder if they're watching him watch her. I sure am. Can't help but notice it. Because it does not look like a man who's afraid. Doesn't look like a man who's heartbroken. Doesn't look like a man who, has been terrorized. He looks like a man who's lost his hold and is pissed about it, still to this day. And that's why we're having this trial. That's why we're having this trial. That I don't know. So far, I'm not seeing a lot of good reason why we should be having it. But maybe he'll testify and have a different story. And maybe it will be good. We'll see. But barring that, this is just the classic denial. He'll never admit any of it, never admit he was in the wrong. It would just be it would be too degrading to his self-image. He just can't handle it. So we're ending this part of the testimony, of course, before we get to Christy's account of the attack. So we kind of know, that's where we're at in the timeline. We know that's what's coming next. So we've already seen the aftermath, but we haven't heard how it happened. So guys, it's not going to be pretty, but this is what she went through. This is what she endured. So when you come back next time, just be prepared. Be prepared for that. So with that, guys, take care, and I will see you next time.